I love home. It's just where my heart is. It's like being in a mother's womb.
Landscape is a reflection of people, and people are a reflection of the landscape.
I can't tell you what home is. I don't feel home anywhere.
You respect the fact that you are living really in somebody else's town if you're a blow-in.
There is often an unfounded fear of how you cope when moving to somewhere new. You may worry, will those anxious feelings ever cease enough to call the new place home? Sometimes the need to find a new home is for growth. Other times the move is not wholeheartedly by choice. Over a period of time, as you settle into your new environment, parts of your personality may take on different qualities and mannerisms that define the people around you. It can also be asked, do these people ever see you as anything but a blow-in? The aim of this program is to listen to the experiences of people living and working within the Dingle Peninsula, to explore possible issues that may arise when different cultures live side by side. By listening to the viewpoints of people having moved into the area over the years, alongside born and bred locals, we seek to discover, can you ever feel truly at home? 4 people who have moved into the Dingle area discuss their experiences of living within the Dingle Peninsula, including Gabi from the Czech Republic.
I'm from Czech Republic, from Sušice. In Czech Republic, we was living in a small garden cottage. You know, it's really one room. You can make fire inside. You cook on the fire and We had fire pit outside. No electrician, but we kept the place very nice, you know. We had outside lots of fruit trees, and so we had lots of things there. My father, he is musician side of gypsies, but I never really hear him even play. He was playing violin, but in the time when I was growing up, he was very sick. And my mother's side, they are all workers, simple people life. I did go through different things in the time. Did go through some racism, yeah, like calling me gypsy, not name, just gypsy, come here. And I never know from which side I will be attacked, you know. I got pretty serious hits, like, you know, in the head, in my body, yeah. But after when I was like 14, 15, I really got seriously. I stand up for myself. I beat up some people, and then they got really scared from me, and I was scary. Yeah. And then I was pretty scary. And from that time, nobody touched me, never. So I had quiet.
My name is Larry, and I come from Michigan, from a defunct family. You know, I guess that's how you'd say it, you know. And my mother, let's see, when I was around 11 years old, she finally had her nervous breakdown. I always called her Mana, never called her mother. We'd call her Mom. Hey, Mom, or something, but it was basically Mana. We got money from the church and stuff to survive. One of our biggest meals was a piece of toast with tomato soup on top. So it was like something solid to eat. And then she had another nervous breakdown. I went into a relative's home for a year and a foster home for about 3 or 4 months. And then we were sent off to live with a father who didn't want us, and sent back and lived with relatives. Then she came out of the hospital. We lived with her again for about a year. And she knew that I wanted to smoke. She smoked, did acid and mescaline, mushrooms. And then I requested I wanted to go to a boys' home. And that was the beginning of my beginning.
My name is Mary McCarthy, and I am from Dublin, a place called Drumcondra, which is on the north side of Dublin. And it was a nice kind of leafy suburb, about 15 minutes from the actual city centre. And we would spend our summers in Rush, which is a little fishing village in North County Dublin. The memories we had as kids, you know, going down to Rush and that freedom and just being able to walk along the beach, and even in the rain, which a lot of the time that was the case. It was raining a lot, but we still had just great memories of it.
My name is Urs Wenk and I'm from Switzerland, and I've moved here 10 years ago. I grew up in the country in a house that used to be an old farmhouse, pretty next to all the woods and everything, kind of idyllic scenario with a little milk hut, as we call it, next door, where all the farmers come in the evening, bring their milk. We get the fresh milk there and yogurts and cheese, and it's a big assembly point every night. I suppose we led a pretty simple life, simple people. My father used to work for the railways. My mother did all kinds of jobs, so we would get by. She was working in a nearby restaurant as a waitress. Then she'd run over to the butcher and work behind the desk in a butcher shop. Ourselves now, our family would have shared a big piece of land that we used to convert into a big garden. And because it was so big and there were so many beds, my father just started sharing it with the neighbors, and there was a meeting point, another meeting point then as well.
Is marig min share mi shachtan Islam.
During our lifetime, we may move home many times, and whether it is somewhere nearby or many miles away, is it the people surrounding us that make us call the place we are living home, or is it something more?
I need to be outside, you know. I actually felt more at home in the first 9 weeks in the Caribbean in my tent than here, you know. I mean, when it's sun and you can make a fire and then it's what's around, you can legally do fire on the place, then you've saved. You don't really need much, you know. When somebody feel they are actually happy outside living in a tent, then you don't need so much, you know. You know, be outside forever when it's sun and you can really breathe.
When I was younger, like 10 years and younger or something, I'm sure I felt something was home. But I probably can't define home today. I can't tell you what home is. I don't feel home anywhere. So I don't know the definition of home. I mean, yeah, you see the family together in the nice houses, nice cars and shit, but is that home? Yeah, I mean, come on, you know. So, yeah, I don't think I have a definition for home, actually. I think I lost a lot of feeling from past experiences. I built a wall. Just don't recognize them, just don't look for them.
Home is somewhere that you just feel accepted and you feel you belong. And I feel I belong here. I felt from the day I came to Dingle. I was on a bus coming from Tralee and we came around the bend at Beanbawn and the bay just kind of opens up in front of you. And I just remember feeling, oh my God, this is just amazing. I felt like I was in a fairy tale, that the scenery was just absolutely breathtaking. And I haven't spent a lot of my 20s travelling. I mean, I saw some amazing places. I was in Nepal, I was in Bali, I was in Thailand, India, Australia. I lived in Greece. I had seen a lot of the world, but there was just something, I just remember feeling that I was home, and that was before I even got off the bus. So that, along with the people here who, you know, perhaps are clannish, and they are for a good reason, because they're maybe protective of this place, and that's understandable. But it's, you know, if you're accepted here, it's just a gift, and it's a privilege to live here.
I do think at the end of the day, it is probably people in general. You'd have to feel, you'd have to have friends, you have to have a social network where you're comfortable with. And then again, I think if I wouldn't be married and if I wouldn't have a child here, I'd probably be less settled as well. I probably would call it less of a home. I probably would call it much more of a temporary home because it would leave me all the options free. So that kind of ties me down, and at the same time it has that effect that it makes me more and more feel at home, because I'm automatically dealing with other things that I wouldn't have to deal with, let's say other parents or the schools and whatever it is. I automatically have to do that, whereas if I was single and free, I could just float around and whatever I wanted, and could open the door and go somewhere else again. Of course, Switzerland will always be where I'm from, so that's another home. I think wherever you can have a happy enough life with your family or your partner, and are accepted and respected, and you have a bit of fun, that's good enough. Life has moved on, or moves on, in Switzerland as well. People are not the same anymore as they were when I left. A lot of people wouldn't be around anymore. Friends have moved on. Your job is not there anymore that you used to have 10 or 15 years ago. So I actually have to weigh up. Even Switzerland would be my home. But certainly I would never exclude going back to Switzerland. But I think there's a lot for us here.
When it comes to change, it is not only the new people that have needed to adapt to their new surroundings, but also the local community to the new people. In the past, the streets of Dingle would have been very different to how they are now. Different modes of transport, different ways of communicating, and a more rural pace of life.
Dingle was a great place to grow up in. It was a very quiet town that time. We were only fishing and farming. They were the two basic jobs that were there, you know. Ryan's daughter, my mom was in that film. I have photographed there of her in the film. That kind of changed Dingle completely, you know. And a lot of local people worked on that at that time. Tourists started coming then, you know. People started doing bed and breakfast. It was nice, you know, you had more people coming to England. People were making a little bit of a living through the guest houses and the B&Bs. You get more houses starting to be built. A lot of people built houses here then, from, you know, people who are working in cities and they have holiday homes here and stuff like that.
You know, where I grew up 2 miles out of town, I mean, literally, it was called a village, but the village was 5 houses. And then you went a 2-mile kind of empty, barren stretch, and you reached the outskirts of town, which were 2 or 3 houses just past the Hillgrove. But now there are at least 2 estates, 3 estates past that. And it's like our house is, or my parents' house, is moving, or maybe Dingletown is moving. They're getting closer together. They're going to join up, I think, at some stage.
Dingle is special, and Dingle always had something. As I remember going off on school tours and stuff like that, and you know, kind of we knew that we had something special here always, and kind of scenery-wise and all the rest of it, and the beaches and kind of the lifestyle and things like that. So I suppose really it was only a matter of time before it was discovered, you know, and I think that discovery is becoming more and more and more, and hence all the changes, modernisation and all the rest of it, you know. So, but it was always here. It was here to begin with. So I know the rest of the world is discovering it too. So I suppose it was inevitable that it would change, yeah. During the winter, it would be local people. Traffic was a lot less that time. And then the summer was kind of a different time where visitors would come down. So, but we were self-contained in the sense that, you know, I mean, Tralee and Killarney. Tralee was 30 miles away, Killarney was 40 miles away, and it basically we'd have spent all our time in Dingle really. Of course, we had the beaches and stuff in the summer. There was a kind of a special thing that I remember well. The men around 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening would kind of gather at corners and things like that and have a chat. Well, especially now before mass and maybe Sunday morning, but often in the evening there seemed to be an awful lot more people walking around town and things like that. I remember passing groups of men as a child. I'd be kind of fascinated by it really, but television and all the rest of it has taken care of all that. So people would be on the street. There'd be conversation and stuff like that going on. So there were things, like I remember people driving their cows up the street to milk them and things like that. There used to be a lot of cattle and stuff on the road. And, people would walk their cattle and stuff on the road. All that kind of stuff is gone. Horse and carts, donkey and carts. Dogs, for some reason. There seemed to be a lot more dogs around that time. Well, all the farmers had dogs and things like that, So the one thing about being from Dingle is that we've seen a lot of people come and go. The people of Dingle want to know more what's in their hearts than anything else. I think that's important. And those qualities are very much respected here. There's the community spirit here kind of thing. Maybe these things are missing in other areas, and people need to kind of put that forward, no more than anyone that has to join a group or go into a different workforce or something. They need to expose themselves a little so people can get to know them. In terms of community life, kind of everybody's stuck in something, which contributes to the community. And that's seen as kind of normal, that somebody would roll up the sleeves and get on with it in a certain area. That will benefit the whole area. All the weekends, the races, the regatta, the food festival, and many Fell na Bealtaine is just coming up the May weekend now. So, there are people working very hard for the good of the community there. So, if somebody gets involved that way and rolls up the sleeves and, and is prepared to put on a day's work, I think that's probably a requirement as well.
Up till the late 1960s, most of the settlers came from Germany. In 1968, the film Rhine's Daughter showed the rest of the world the amazing landscape of the peninsula. In the early 1980s, the now famous dolphin fungi sealed the motivation for even more people to move there.
You hold on to who you are and your identity, but you are very respectful of the community that you come into. And I think if you get that balance right, there's respect on both sides. I'd respect people who hold on to who they are, and I think that's really admirable, and it's a very brave thing to do, because it's very difficult, to say, well, actually I'm from Bangladesh or I'm from Lithuania or whatever country it happens to be, and hold on to your traditions and values. I think that human beings have a great way of reading other people, and if somebody has good intentions and is willing to contribute and be a part of a community, be genuine and have respect for the place that they are entering into, this land or this area belongs to generations of people in one way, and yet it belongs to all of us in another way. But you have to respect the fact that, Irish, it's one of the few places left where Irish is spoken, where culture here is so ingrained, it's so strong, and you have to embrace that and appreciate it and respect it above all. And it's like we're all transparent, you can't put on, you can't pretend you're somebody you're not. At the end of the day, people treat, you see through that, and you will be accepted if it's meant to be. You often hear people who've lived here. I know people who tried to live here over the years and it never worked out. And there was a reason it never worked out. They never submerged themselves, and they were never honest with people around them, perhaps. And, and people who don't respect this place don't last long here.
I remember in Switzerland, I always thought it's interesting other people people from other countries that live there. They add a lot, and they talk differently, and they have different customs. They cook differently. They do things differently. So you can only learn. So why should you adapt too much, but you have to follow the rules of society, and you don't want to bother people, you don't want to harm people. That's the most important.
The Czechs pretty much stay with the Czechs. The Russians, Lithuanians, whatever, pretty much stay in their own little group. I mean, I don't stay with Americans. But you have cliques that are living together in the community. Okay, you go to the bar and you see the Czechs, and like a Czech friend of ours, she always has an Irish boyfriend. But she still hangs out with the Czechs and stuff, you know. But it's still cliquish. Still little groups. So I don't know if they're all connected, or people don't ask us to dinner parties and parties anymore because we never go. They used to ask us all the time, hey, there's a party tomorrow night, you guys come. Okay, yeah, we'll see what we're doing, and we just never go. And now they don't ask us anymore because we just never go.
Dingle has fast become a multicultural society which has brought a rich diversity of people with a wide variety of needs. Integration became an important part of meeting those needs, and this is the approach the community took.
We aim to do the integration through English language classes and through organising cultural events and different things like that. So basically, to run the project mainly consisted of language classes for migrant or immigrant workers into the locality, and we also tried to organise various cultural events. One of the things that we really noticed when you look at integration was that generally people who come to live in a new place, sometimes they don't integrate very much. I mean, we've seen it ourselves when Irish people go abroad, they tend to stick with Irish people. People literally stick together, sort of a thing. I guess in order to have integration, we wanted to try and encourage people to branch out a bit. I mean, without forcing them, obviously. And we wanted to try and get the local population interested in the new people as well. So it wasn't just about the people who had come into the area becoming au fait with where they'd moved to and learning all about that. It should be a two-way thing, really. So the idea was that it could be really useful and interesting for the local people as well to find out a bit about who these people were, who had come to live in the area. Language classes were a huge part of it, and it was great. We had an intercultural evening where we encouraged our non-Irish people to bring some food representative of where they came from, like a traditional dish from Latvia or Lithuania or Russia or whoever, Poland. And then we organised some Irish music and a local Irish dancing teacher. We did have some locals. I mean, some of them, I must admit, were coerced, as in my parents came. My parents came. I was like, please come. But we did have some others who came and willingly came. One of the next things we organised was an intercultural sports day. Children are a great way to bring people together, and that actually worked really well, the Intercultural Children's Sports Day. I think possibly we didn't call it intercultural. We left out the word intercultural, and it's a good way to get people to mix because they were all set up in different teams.
Formal integration programs were not for everyone, and there were many who decided to integrate in their own ways.
The fact that I had a brother living here prior to me coming down was a great introduction. He's a very popular, likeable guy, and he'd made great friends here, and it's kind of almost like if you're introduced to people in Dingle by somebody who is already accepted and liked here, they almost give you the seal of approval. And if you want to get involved, then that's entirely up to you. But I ended up having two sons, and I suppose between them going to school and being involved in the GAA, and just you get to know people, more and more people every year, your circle expands. I know my neighbours, I have Lithuanian neighbours who are unbelievably just well integrated. They really take part in the community. Their English may not be great, but they still want to be involved in like tidying up the road, or the woman in particular makes amazing cakes, and everybody in town goes to her for their child's birthdays, 21st anniversaries, weddings, whatever. Really gifted woman, and has been totally accepted. So
everything is based on going to the pub. You can't go to the park. It's raining, it's windy, it's cold. You can't sit out like a little more sunshine or sunshine days. We go down by the pier. We'd go sit there on the bench and just talk and look around. It was nice, you know, but today it just seems a little different.
I certainly think that being married to an Irish woman helped that process big time, and still does, because just because she has lived almost all her life here, and she has loads of connections. She can sort something out when I can't sort it out, and nobody really can if you're going to another country, because everywhere they speak not only a different language, but it's a different language in itself on how to understand each other and how to express each other. I kept myself the freedom of more or less talking the way I'm used to, because I find if I adapt too much, then I lose myself, and that doesn't help anyone.
Es kolani vaim achatay ravamayin gra shem chrakes machos nagon.
When we connect with people who share similar cultural attitudes as we do, the system generally works well. However, when we interact with people of different nationalities, problems may arise. We can hear how locals and blow-ins are reacting to one another.
Going to school, really, I don't remember any foreigners at that stage. We never had anybody from any different country, you know. But times changed then when it came to the 70s, I suppose, you know. And of course, the time of the boom, then you had a lot of people came here, but basically they just came to make profit, put up a load of houses, and I didn't like that, really. Local people didn't like that, because these guys don't give a damn. They just want to make a fast buck and get out. College kids, they can't get jobs in the summer because most of those jobs are taken by the Eastern Europeans who have come in here. But
I'm from Dublin. I'm sure there's lots of people who don't like Dublin people. I got pregnant when I came to Dingle, unmarried mother. I'm sure there were a lot of people that didn't approve of that. I've never been out of work here, and I have 2 kids, so it was never easy in terms of getting babysitters and that, but I've always had work, and I believe if you want to work, the work is here.
They would use where they were from and say, in this area, this is how we do it. Well, if that area is so good, what are they doing in our area? I think that's kind of frowned upon, because they're not really giving the existing situation a chance. Be it, you know, I personally can't handle those people anyway. Those people know. I would react to them. I can't speak for anybody else, but I would react to them and tell them, look, that's fine, that's your opinion, and that's all it is. Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing. Yeah, they'd come in saying, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to, instead of giving what's in existence a bit of a chance, and maybe seeing how to contribute then when they have more knowledge of the place or something like that. I would see that as a kind of a destructive behaviour. They don't have any interest in Dingle, they don't have any interest in anything, and they're aggressive, and they're kind of, I don't know what areas they have come out of, but you know, they have really no business in this area anyway. There are people that won't fit in, but then you'd wonder, do they fit in their own areas either? You know, that kind of thing. So
I think it's different energies. Everybody is different because we all have different energies. Just because you don't like somebody doesn't mean that him and I won't get along real well. It's like magnets. Attract, or what do you call it? Deflect, detract, or whatever. Yeah. I find a lot of people trust me when I first meet them. I always thought I could be a good undercover cop. No, because I get trust so easy, like drugs, be undercover. I wouldn't do that to anybody. But it's so easy to find information. You talk to people, and pretty soon people are talking. you know. No, everybody's drunk here. It's not my style of people. I'm not saying just the Irish, but I have to say Irish because the majority here is Irish. But you go to the bars and you got the rugby players all fucking drunk, and the girls dressing up, they're drunk too, you know, and sloppy, and that has no interest with me. You know, I don't like a drunk. I mean, I drink my beers every day, but you don't see me spitting and slobbering and mispronouncing my words and, you know, and getting real close to you when they talk. I don't like a drunk in my face at all, you know, kind of push them back a little bit.
The local people were sometimes, they were a bit vocal, maybe not in the most positive way, about the people who had come into the community. And there was a kind of chasm between the two. There were the sort of local people and the immigrants. But, you know, in ways that's historical, that whole thing, because I think some of the first people who came to move into the West Kerry area years ago, I don't know, the 60s, the 70s, quite a lot of people came from Germany, and a lot of the local people were opposed. And I mean, people in West Kerry talk about it a lot, about this whole idea of blow-ins and things like that. And sometimes it's as if you don't ever settle. You're never truly accepted into the community. And I think people sometimes sort of think, what do I have to do to get accepted into this community?
But then there's a lot of them that are not working and they're just drawing the dole and drinking and stuff like that. And I don't like that type. You have a lot of crime, I suppose, as well from that kind of a situation, you know. It's not a good, as an Irish person, to look at that. Sure, we have so many young people ourselves now leaving the country. There's no work. There's about 20 or 30 young guys from here gone. There's just no work there, like, you know. It was great when we were young because you just walk down the pier and you get a job fishing, you know. And if you go back to the pier there now, you just see French and Spanish coming in, landing lorry loads and truckloads of fish. We have the best waters and we have the least quota. I mean, there's millions after being put into the port. For what? For foreign countries to come in here and take our fish? Because some smart guy comes in from some foreign country and says, oh, you're killing all our salmon. You have to stop salmon fishing. And the government stops the salmon fishing. Then again, as a person, I went to England myself for 4 years. Irish have gone all over the world. We can't say, you can't just say they should go back to their own country because that's a very wrong thing to do, you know. I think it's great that people, you know, even people that have come in, I said, that started businesses here and everything. I think it's fantastic, really, you know.
I think because Dingle is also kind of it's a metropole for tourism, so people are very used in general of having people from other countries coming into their little town. They make a living out of the tourists mainly, so they can't be accepting just the ones that bring the cash and not accepting the other ones. It just wouldn't work because it goes hand in hand, whereas maybe in other towns where people just drive through and never really stop, it's a different story. People are not confronted with people from other countries as much. I think it's also sometimes people are afraid of what they don't know. And that's why they be giving out to foreigners. They are afraid. It's the same thing happened in Switzerland or happens in Switzerland. They blame people from other countries for unemployment. It's not right, because who did all the dirty jobs 20, 30 years ago and still do at the same time. So, and there's also loads of people that come from other countries that actually do quality jobs that nobody else in the country can do. So it's all about communication, it's all about education as well. all these places where there's loads of tourists, there's definitely a different approach to foreigners. People are just used, the locals are just used to them, I would say. So maybe that's why somebody that lives here locally but is a blow-in also feels automatically better in a place like that, because they're surrounded by this kind of feeling of international atmosphere maybe or something.
I know of one particular person that's been living in this town probably the same length of time as me. They have never been accepted, and I know the reason they haven't been accepted is because their priority would be alcohol. They have been on the dole since they've come here. They have never worked, even though there is always work in Dingle. I mean, but this individual has never worked, basically scrounges off the system, and that kind of person will never be accepted here and will never be looked after because people see through them. But I think if you prove yourself to be, a good person, and if you work hard and if you rear your children in a healthy, loving way, I think people will see that and they accept you. And I was accepted. I presume, I hope that that's the reasons I was accepted. Maybe there's people out there who don't like me, but you can't please people. I'm not a people pleaser. I'm here to enjoy life and do the best I can. And
I suppose that they do find it strange. They have different cultures and we have different ways, and trying to learn our culture, I suppose, is, it takes time, I guess, I know a lot of little towns I have been in, like in the coastline. Dingle has put in money back into their town. It shows. They work hard at keeping it. But I hope it doesn't get too much,
no matter where you go in the world, you're going to meet with prejudice. You're going to meet people who don't like English. You're going to meet people who don't approve of girls getting pregnant outside of marriage. You're going to get people who don't like you if your skin colour happens to be a darker shade of whatever. So everybody, you just have to deal with people like that. I think you basically have to ignore them. You just have to let them. They're the ones I would feel sorry for because they're narrow-minded, and they obviously have been brought up with the bitterness and with that kind of hatred. I don't know. I just think it's sad for them.
During this programme you have heard from 4 blow-ins: Mary from Dublin, Urs Wenck from Switzerland, Larry Johnson from America, and Gabby John Savannah from the Czech Republic. We all have our own opinions about what home is, but after living within the Dingle Peninsula for many years, what's the overall conclusion that the blow-ins have?
We never click together. Never, It's just we respect each other but I don't think we can ever click because it's different when you come from Czech Republic and you already grew up. They smile and, they don't. I feel the different energy,
I've learned what to say in certain situations, whereas maybe before I would have banged my head in these situations many times, or would have come across or that was inappropriate to say, but I think that's all learning experience. But in general, I'm Swiss. I'm happy and proud to be Swiss, so why shouldn't I show this here? And I don't have to hide anything. I'll never be fully able to cover my accent either. They all pick it up straight away. Yes, I was in school and within 20 seconds, oh, where are you from? So no matter how hard I try, I'll always be a blow-in.
I don't feel I belong to this community. I live here, I do what I got to do, and I plan to leave. So I'm not even looking to belong, actually. I'm just taking care of my own little space called Larry. Selfish or whatever you want to call it. That's me, and that's where I am right now. Yeah, I don't really get involved.
I think you can live here any way you want to live here. It's the bottom line is you respect the fact that, you know, you come into this town, you choose to live quietly and not integrate, that's fine, but you respect the fact that you are living really in somebody else's town if you're a blow-in.
The one thing we all have to remember is whenever you move to a foreign land or distant place, remember that they are all someone's home and backyard.